Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas Tutora. Welcome to Tutora Time. America is now a dictatorship, I'm sorry to say. This morning, the FBI, in coordination with the DOJ, executed a search warrant where they went into Rudy Giuliani's home and seized electronic devices and phones.
Harris, at this hour we are outside Mr. Giuliani's apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. The federal authorities did search his home, and apparently they did take away several electronic devices. There are multiple reports that authorities were seeking to look at his phones.
All of this, another trumped up fake investigation and harassment, and they're saying it's about Ukrainian corruption.
Anybody, any American, whether you're red or blue, should be extremely disturbed by what happened here today, by the continued politicization of the Justice Department. This is disgusting. This is absolutely absurd. If this can happen to the former president's lawyer, this can happen to any American. Enough is enough.
Joe Biden is a complete American dictator. Yesterday, he's on TV telling us if we could go outside and when we could go outside and how we could go outside. That has nothing to do with America. That's a dictator who thinks he can tell you this. And today, he used his political power as a vendetta towards Rudy Giuliani. Why? Because Rudy Giuliani was Donald Trump's personal attorney and went from state to state in the 2020 election aftermath to deal with all the election irregularities that took place. So many state laws in the 2020 election cycle that were ignored by lower level state officials, and that really made a difference in the outcome of the election. Rudy Giuliani is an American hero. He started as a federal prosecutor. He took down the mafia in New York basically single-handedly.
In 1983, Giuliani returned home as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He made over 4,000 convictions, from corrupt Wall Street guys to the heads of the mafia.
And even though he's Italian, his loyalty wasn't to his ethnic group. His loyalty was to America.
And in 1993, he was elected as the first Republican mayor of New York City since the 60s.
I lived in New York City, in Manhattan, when Rudy Giuliani became mayor. His predecessor, David Dinkins, ran the city like a slum. Crime was everywhere, garbage was everywhere. It wasn't even safe to go outside. Rudy Giuliani came in and started proper policing. He did the dreaded stop and frisk. When people would jump the turnstile or were smoking in the subway or committing small infractions, he would stop them and they would run their record and he would see that these people are actually criminals with outstanding warrants.
But the mayor was hyper-focused on cleaning up the city streets. He pursued petty offenses like graffiti and marijuana possession to bring down the crime rate.
We're held together by respect for the law.
Of course, all that's done away with now under de Blasio, and New York City is a raging murder capital. Rudy Giuliani dropped the crime rate overall from the time he took office about 75 to 80%, a miraculous achievement, especially in New York City. Then Rudy Giuliani guided New York City and America through the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
But on 9/11, everything changed. Giuliani became known worldwide as America's mayor for his strong leadership during a time of tragedy.
Tomorrow, New York is going to be here, and we're going to rebuild, and we're going to be stronger than we were before.
His approval rating skyrocketed to almost 80%. Even after he left office, he was polled as the most popular politician of either party.
Giuliani risked his own life. He was actually trapped underground when one of the buildings collapsed. They had to find their way out through the passageways that were underneath the World Trade Center. The whole country applauded him. Saturday Night Live.
Joining us now is America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
David Letterman, everybody was praising Rudy Giuliani as the American hero.
Thank you very much for being here. And if you don't mind, again, can you just tell me how your September 11th began?
It began with a breakfast at the Peninsula Hotel And then at about 8:55, I was notified that a plane had struck one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and that there was a fire at the World Trade Center. And as I was going downtown, the Peninsula Hotel's Midtown, I was heading downtown. And then at that point, we saw a big flash of light, and that's when the second plane hit. And once the second plane hit, we knew obviously it was a terrorist attack.
You had a very, very close call yourself. You were trapped for a time.
We're very fortunate. Myself, the police commissioner, the fire commissioner, we were all in an office that had been taken over as a command post, 75 Barclay Street, when one of the towers came down. And it started hitting our building. And then we tried to get out 3 different exits, couldn't get out, and finally got out one exit.
What changed? He became Donald Trump's personal attorney, and dictators on the left can't have that. Look, this whole thing started under Barack Obama. When Donald Trump was elected president, the shadow president, Barack Obama, came up with the fake Russia collusion story, which went on for 2 years. No evidence, no nothing, no proof whatsoever of any funny business between Trump and Russia. But that didn't stop them from exercising a completely fraudulent investigation. The goal of the investigation was not truth. The goal was to undermine Trump's presidency. But Donald Trump outsmarted them. He still got so much done, even while he was being attacked falsely and without cause. The other thing that is absolutely nauseating is during Trump's presidency, the left was carrying on about how Trump is trying to make the attorney general his own private attorney. First of all, the attorney general works for the president of the United States, so they should have to answer to the president of the United States. They're not a separately elected body. And the attorney general should be prosecuting things that are on the president's agenda because that's why he was elected. But it's not supposed to be for political vendettas. And that's exactly what Joe Biden is doing now. It's a political vendetta against Rudy Giuliani. They want to take him down because he stood up to them. What Joe Biden's DOJ is doing to Rudy Giuliani, this is what a dictatorship is. They go after their political opponents and they try to imprison them. They're going after the greatest mayor New York City ever had, somebody who took down the mob and led the country through 9/11, and this is who they're going after. And it's all to cover their own story. The Hunter Biden and Joe Biden corruption with Ukraine is out there for everyone to see. During the 2020 election cycle, Twitter and the media crushed the Hunter Biden Ukrainian kickback money story. They called it fake news. But just about a month ago, Jack Dorsey admitted that the Hunter Biden story is true and that Twitter made a mistake when they hid the story. A mistake, really?
And for weeks, this very credibly sourced article right before an election about Hunter Biden was banned by Twitter. And then when you contrast that, you have this Washington Post article that was designed to misportray a conversation between President Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State. Since parts of this have been debunked, and yet this article can still be tweeted out.
Yeah, we made a total mistake with New York Post. We corrected that within 24 hours. It was not to do with the content. It was to do with a hacked materials policy. We had an incorrect interpretation. We don't write policy according to any particular political leaning. If we find any of it, we route it out.
The New York Post's entire Twitter account was blocked for about 2 weeks.
We didn't block their account for 2 weeks. We required them to delete the tweet and then they could tweet it again. They didn't take that action, so we corrected it for them.
Even though the tweet was accurate.
A mistake, really? They hid the evidence of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's corruption with Ukraine and called it fake news, even though we all know it wasn't, and the evidence is in the light of day. And now they're going to turn around and try to go after Rudy Giuliani for Ukrainian corruption. Whatever the left goes after you on, that's what they're doing themselves. This is all Barack Obama and other globalists behind this, and Barack Obama has really destroyed the United States of America. It's a dictatorship. The president is using law enforcement to target his political opponents, to break into their homes, to try to seize evidence. And even if they don't get a conviction, the goal is to put the scare in people, to say, don't stand up, we'll do what we want. And if you think you're going to investigate, we're going to come and we're going to crush you.
If this can happen to the former president's lawyer, this can happen to any American.
It's a sad day for America. If Biden walks like a dictator and talks like a dictator, then he's a dictator. I find it really hard to believe that 80 million people would vote for this, for the destruction of their borders, to the destruction of law enforcement. And this is the other thing. The left is claiming they're going after criminals like Giuliani while they're unleashing real violent criminals in the street. When they unleash violent criminals in the street, they're telling us that some of us are expendable. They don't care if a certain percentage of citizens get killed by criminals. They're just fine with it. It's a price worth paying so they could advance their political agenda. These are dark days in America. I never thought I would live to see the beloved United States of America turn into a dictatorship. But that day is indeed upon us now. I'm Nicholas Tutora. I'll talk to you again soon on Tutora Time.